Hello, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Reverend JR, and today we're going to issue an apology. Let's take a look at this.
All apologies are not created equal.
Absolutely correct.
Some apologies are really genuine and heartfelt and sincere, while others are self-serving and selfish and rude.
Also correct. Some people are forced to apologize for things they shouldn't, and other people apologize for things they shouldn't. Sometimes they're sincere, sometimes they're sarcastic. I can't help it if you're offended by some of them.
And a lot of apologies end up somewhere in the middle. So let me show you one example of how not to apologize.
Look, I'm not sure which program you're using, but I'm sorry that you don't know how to add a hair's width of space between words when you do hasty jump cuts. Is that a good apology?
At San Diego Comic-Con this year, the cast of Supergirl was singing a goofy song about the show, and one of the actors sang about how two of the female characters on the show were just friends and were not going to get together.
Okay, I'm very sorry that you're offended, or that others are offended, that two people want a strictly platonic relationship. You have my deepest, sincerest apologies that this offends you.
And they all laughed about it. Afterwards, a lot of queer people who are fans of that show felt really hurt by this, myself included, because it felt like they were mocking the fact that anyone ever thought those two characters could get together.
Again, I'm sorry that you think two characters who are apparently straight represent the entire LGBTQ whatever community, and they can't possibly just have their own agency independent of what you assign them. My deepest, sincerest, most honest apologies at your offense.
Queer people have such little mainstream representation as it is. It felt cruel to mock the bit of representation that they were hoping for.
You have my greatest apologies that not everyone holds your opinion and needs to make every production they have about their sexual identity and orientation. I am sincerely sorry that not everyone else sees the world in exactly the same way as you, and I am so terribly sorry that other people just want to make entertainment and don't find all the things offensive that you do. And I am terribly sorry that you don't understand that sometimes a joke is just a joke.
Now, I don't think they meant it as an insult to their queer fans, but that doesn't change the fact that many people were hurt by it.
It is with the most sincere regret that I inform you that unfortunately offense is taken, not given, and I'm sorry you took offense at something that was not offensive. You have my deepest apologies that you are easily offended by things which should not offend you. I'm so sorry.
So then, the actor who sang that line made an apology on Instagram. It's filled with sentences of him deflecting blame onto the queer fans who were hurt by it.
Let me offer my sincerest apologies that someone apologized and you were offended by the apology. I am so sorry that an apology offended you. I hope that none of mine will. Sincerely.
He says that they took it the wrong way, that he couldn't possibly be homophobic, that they were spewing hate at him, and he says they made him feel just as shitty as he made them feel.
I would like to extend a mea culpa on behalf of all the people in the world who are genetically unable to feel offense, like the man in this song. I presume it was a man, I guess. Because as we all know, if Riley Dennis disagrees with you, you are completely incapable of being offended like Riley Dennis. And so to Riley, I would like to extend my greatest concession of apology. We didn't realize you were the only person in the world who can be offended unintentionally. Sorry about that.
That's a terrible apology.
On behalf of all the people who have never apologized properly, I would like to apologize to you for our inability to apologize at the level you would like us to apologize. I'm so sorry. I'm so very sorry.
In fact, if you ever want to know how to not make an apology, this is a really great example.
Why, thank you very much. I'm so sorry that you were unable to show us this example before. Maybe then we could have all been spared some embarrassment.
And a lot of people who are much more involved in the fandom than myself have gone in depth about this and articulated their feelings really well, and I think he ended up posting a lot more about it, so I just want to talk about apologies in general today, not about this specific one.
I am so very sorry that we wasted all this time talking about the specific thing you did not want to talk about. You have my deepest apologies that I went down the path you led me on. I am so very sorry to have brought it back up and perhaps ruffled your feathers, or rustled your jimmies. With a heavy heart, I extend my mea culpa for giving you an apology for the apology that attempts to apologize for the thing that wasn't offensive. So sorry. So sorry.
Because I see this happen all the time, not just in TV fandom. People really don't seem to understand what makes an apology a good apology.
I'm sorry that it took you so long to get to the point that now I'm going to have to spend even longer figuring out how to give a proper, sincere, heartfelt apology. My sincerest gratitude to you for showing me how to apologize properly by not showing me yet how to apologize. I'm sorry you couldn't get to the point faster.
So, here are some steps you can follow to make sure that your apology is sincere. Number 1, show remorse and take responsibility.
I am so very sorry that I did not take responsibility for the offense that a bunch of other people felt before I even knew about it. My bad. I am so very, very sorry.
You gotta say the words, "I'm sorry," or "I apologize." I've genuinely seen people apologize without actually saying the word.
You have my deepest, most enthusiastic, most sincere, remorseful contrafibularities that you have had to discover the real world and the people within it who are sometimes jerks. I am so sorry that the real world is not the nicest, happiest, friendliest place that you have ever been. And I am sorry that people are assholes. And I am so very sorry that everyone does not personally offer an apology to you for everything that you find offensive. In fact, I am very offended by this myself, and I expect that everyone in the world shall now give me the most sincere, regretful, remorseful apology I have ever heard. I am so offended that people do not understand how the real world works, and I am sorry that you have not apologized to me for it yet.
You gotta say it, and you can't qualify it with anything. Like, "I'm sorry you were hurt," or "I apologize if I offended anyone," aren't apologizing for your actions, they're apologizing for how the other person feels.
I am so very sorry that my accurate assessment of reality has caused you any great deal of offense, above and beyond what you could normally tolerate as a civilized, logical human being. I apologize that I treated you like a human, as a peer to myself, because that's clearly not what you want. I apologize that I did not treat you like the royalty that you clearly are, better than the rest of society. I have such great remorse that you're not just one of the normal people, and you need me to apologize for the offense you are taking to the things that are just happening. I'm sorry that the natural world causes you such great discomfort that you must be around it and experience it like the rest of us. I'm so very sorry.
You're saying that you're sorry that they're hurt, but you're not taking responsibility for having caused that pain.
It is with a heavy heart and the clarity of hindsight that I apologize that I can't control what offends you. I am so very sorry indeed.
What you want to say is, "I'm sorry that I did this," or "I apologize for doing that." You have to own up to the damage you've done and genuinely show remorse, or it's a terrible apology.
I apologize that I did or said something that might offend anyone in the entire world, regardless of the fact that I had no way of knowing this, and I feel sincerely regretful that my actions, which were completely acceptable, caused offense to a great many people. I am so very sorry that I did not take the sensibilities of every person in the entire world into account before saying or doing whatever it is I did or said. Please use this apology and understand I am equally sincere pretty much every other time this happens, and you can apply this to every one of those preemptively. It is with a heavy heart, a sullen mind, and a soiled conscience that I apologize to you for the very act of being alive in your presence, Your Majesty.
Number 2, explain what you did wrong.
Dear Diary, today I wrote something on the internet and someone got offended by it. These are my actions, and they really offended someone. I am so very sorry.
Avoiding what you did or making excuses for it doesn't help. The person you're apologizing to wants to know that you know what you did wrong.
It is with a sunken heart that I report that I am aware that the crime I committed was offending a bunch of people on the internet who happen to have a bunch of toxic ideology, and I realize now that I offended them even though I had absolutely no way to not offend them. I'm not trying to make excuses here. I'm honestly just telling you why I think I did something wrong. I'm sorry that you're going to see this as deflection, or an excuse, rather than me trying to explain to you why it is that I saw it that way, and how I can learn from it and change it in the future.
State explicitly what you did wrong and explain that you now understand why that's wrong.
I'm sorry. I treated you as an equal and as a peer, and this was wrong, and I know it was wrong because I clearly should have treated you as someone better than me with much easier offended sensibilities than myself. And I should have known that I am accountable to you for all of the virtue signaling that you put forth. I'm sorry that I ever treated you like a person who should be on equal footing with me, and instead I know that I should have treated you like a special snowflake whose psyche could break at any moment, and I should make sure to put a trigger warning on everything, because it would be wrong for me to presume that you're human, and treat you the same as I would expect you to treat me. Sorry about that.
It's okay to say that you didn't mean to, or that it wasn't your intent, but don't use that as a shield to hide behind.
I apologize, and I am so very sorry that you cannot tell the difference, and that you think they must fundamentally be different. Sorry for thinking that you had the critical reasoning skills to understand a basic apology. I shall do my best to overcome this hurdle in my understanding, and I'll treat you like a 2-year-old in the future. My apologies for treating you like an adult, and expecting you to understand an apology like an adult.
Regardless of what you meant to do or what your intention was, you hurt somebody.
You know, Riley, I'm sorry that you made a video where you're treating the entire internet like 3-year-olds, and that's really offensive to me. I know maybe you didn't intend to or anything, but could you please issue an apology to the entire internet because I happen to find you offensive in treating me like a fucking child? Could you see your way to doing that? I'll be waiting. Sorry I cussed there. Don't want to offend you or anything.
And your intention doesn't change that. Just say, I said X, Y, and Z, and now I realize that I shouldn't have said that, and this is why.
I'm sorry. You're probably going to find my apology offensive, so I'm sorry that I apologized to you. Am I doing it right?
It's that easy. Number 3, don't deflect blame onto the person you hurt. It's possible that you feel hurt in this situation too. Maybe the person you hurt lashed out at you and called you names afterwards because they were angry and hurt. But they had every right to feel that way because you did something wrong that deeply hurt them.
Alright, so what you're saying is, if I'm offended by something, it's okay for me to lash out at it, because that's the normal thing to do when you're offended. But you can't do that if you've already done something offensive. So if someone offends you and you offend them back, they can't offend you back again, because no take-backsies or something? I apologize, Riley. I don't understand. That is a sincere one. I'm sorry that I do not understand the point you are trying to make.
Their anger at you is justified, and the way they may have hurt you is in no way comparable to how you hurt them.
So if you're accidentally offensive, that's worse than being purposefully offensive, even if you've apologized for the accidental offense, because reasons. I do what now? Okay.
If I punch somebody, then they call me an asshole, I have no right to be like, hey, that word hurts me, how could you do that to me?
Well, see, there's the problem. You were not talking about the kind of thing where someone assaults you. That is illegal, you see, and actually if they hit you, that's battery. I'm sorry if people are hitting you and then being jerks about it. That is actually reprehensible. But it's a different kind of thing, it's a different class. It's an error of reification to call it the same thing as making a joke in a production that someone finds offensive on accident. Do you see the difference between these two things. Because if you don't, you shouldn't be making this video, and I'm very sorry if you feel differently.
Because really, if I just punched them, I probably deserve that. You have to take the blame, and you have to take the pushback and the hate that may have resulted from what you did.
Fair enough. If you intentionally do something to harm someone, then I agree with you. You should not punch Nazis. However, if you say words and someone gets offended by them, it's not at all the same thing. I can say anything to you I want right now, but I'm not. Because I feel like you are, for the most part, a reasonable good person, Riley. I think you are just very misguided here, and I hope you can see why that is. If you can't, I apologize. I'd be glad to have a debate on this, but they're just simply not the same things. Yes, you and I both agree that violence is bad, and if you start violence, certainly you deserve whatever backlash you get. But being accidentally offensive, or even purposefully offensive with your free speech, is not generally a crime. Barring things like verbal assault where you threaten to kill someone or something. Those are not protected speech, and you can be arrested for those. But something on the other end of the spectrum, like two straight guys making a joke that they're not gay, I mean, that's not even a joke, that's just a thing, is nowhere near the same level of offense. Do you understand? Let's take this recent clip, for example.
These people are the biggest cucks on the planet.
Alex here has every right to say the stupid, reprehensible, stupid, idiotic, dumb, stupid, moronic, slovenly, dumb stuff that he says. You're allowed to be offensive in public, generally. He's not allowed to threaten people, but he is allowed to say really dumb shit.
You're trash. Hey, come tell me on camera. Come here, coward. Come here, coward. Run your...
So you see, there's the thing. Alex had that coming to him. Some guy yelling at him as he passes on the street. The thing Alex did wrong was assault the guy by running after him. And yes, that is criminal assault, by the way. You could call it aggravated, but then again, you could call the guy yelling at him aggravated. So, Alex says something, someone else on the street says something. Those are both fine. Alex running after the guy, that's assault. Because more likely than not, that guy would have just kept walking if Alex hadn't chased him down.
On camera. Right here. Tell people intellectually who you are.
And then the man stands, and Alex assaults him further by raising his hand to him.
Intellectually who I am?
Go ahead. Yeah.
I'm your mama.
Yeah, can't even talk. Look at you. This is what they've turned the people into. This is it right here.
And then the guy arguably tries to defend himself by bumping against Alex and Alex bumping against him. Alex keeping his hand raised the entire time, mind you. So the thing that happens next is either assault or self-defense, depending on how you want to look at it. But I'm just saying, Alex had absolutely no right to assault the guy, but they both had every right to yell at one another like idiots. I do not condone violence. Please do not be violent.
Literal slave of the system. See that? That's who they are. Look at this slave.
And the thing is, this might crop up years later. You may have already apologized and someone shows up out of nowhere who doesn't know you apologized or didn't think your apology was genuine enough, and they're still mad at you.
Yeah, it's almost like you don't have any control over other people. Huh.
I know it's exhausting to deal with that because on the internet, everything lasts forever and something you did wrong years ago can haunt you forever.
Or something you've never even done can haunt you forever. Again, I don't think this mentality is useful.
But you still have to be sorry. You have to keep apologizing over and over again. Not everyone's gonna see or know about your apology, and if you hurt them bad enough, some people are probably never gonna accept it. And that's okay. They have every right to be mad, and you have no right to demand they accept your apology.
Wrong.
But for any woman at that level of visibility, I can be confident that she did. For anyone in a group that commonly gets marked as other, it becomes likely at relatively low follower numbers, and at a certain level of visibility, everyone has to deal with it.
Quit trying to place people who offend you into the other category. They are humans, the same as you, the same as me, or Alex Jones, or the neo-Nazis, or the Antifa, or the SJWs, or the feminists, or the MGTOW, or the LGBTQ, or the cis white males. We're all human, And the more we treat each other like humans, the quicker we can get over this and learn to work together to solve the actual bigger problems than just being offended because someone made a joke you don't like. Those people are also still human. I don't have to like their ideas, neither do you. But you do have to treat them as human if you yourself want to be treated as human.
Being a good ally and genuinely trying to be better is a process.
Close enough. Be a human ally, because you're human.
It's not something you can do once and be done with. Number 4, explain how you'll do better next time. Part of apologizing is changing your future behavior. An apology is worthless if you go ahead and do the same thing 2 days later.
I agree. It's really bad to call people out for not treating others as human, and then turn around and not treat others as human. Either we're all in this together or we aren't.
So tell the person you're apologizing to exactly how you're going to change. Obviously, nobody can perfectly predict their future behavior, and you might make a mistake again, but you need to be clear that you're at least trying to change.
Right. People should actually act as though they are remorseful. Personally, I don't care if it's an act or not, as long as they don't continue doing the bad stuff. I'd rather them be honestly remorseful, but at the same time, if they seem to have corrected their actions, you are not the arbiter of morality. You are not the dictator of remorse. You don't get to decide that people are not remorseful or haven't changed just because they've done something once. I think you're probably a pretty good person. I think you just have faulty logic here. But I believe that you and I and everyone else can work together to make the world a better place to live, rather than constantly complaining about things that happened in the past, except for the few select examples of humans who do not act as though they are remorseful for bad things they have done in the past. Yes, those people exist, but the one example you actually gave doesn't appear to be one of those people. Virtue signaling about what kind of responses to give, and belaboring the point of what they've done, isn't as helpful as saying, okay, they've apologized, let's hope they don't do it again, and if they don't, we'll leave it in the past. Do you see the difference?
If you said a word that hurt someone, promise you'll try to remove that word from your vocabulary.
This video is long enough already. I agree with that sometimes and disagree with it others. It's entirely based on the context.
If you hurt somebody through your actions, explain how you'll avoid doing that action again.
You see, there's one major point you've overlooked here, and I suddenly just realized what it was. Maybe I don't believe you're sincere when you say that you're offended by it. Now apply all the points you've given me to that. Maybe I think you're only saying you're offended by it for no good reason. Maybe I don't have to accept the fact that you say you're offended by it. Do you see the kind of slippery slope you've set up? Take a minute, pause the video. If you haven't worked it out yet, try to work it out real quick, then watch the rest of the video.
Be as specific as you can, because what people really want to know is that they can trust you moving forward to not do the same thing again.
Or not. Maybe just don't be so offended by things. Just because you think the word fuck is offensive, doesn't mean you have to get bent out of shape when people occasionally use it. Or even if they use it all the time.
Number 5, don't expect them to accept your apology. Depending on how badly you hurt someone, they may take a while to accept your apology, or they may never accept it. Either way, they don't owe you that.
Oh, well there you go. Don't expect people to believe you when you tell them you're offended, is exactly what you just said. It kind of reminds me of that listen and believe argument, where if someone says they've been raped, you just simply accept them as having been raped. But if the victim says he didn't do it, why don't you also listen and believe to him? Same argument here. You expect me to believe anyone when they say they're offended about anything, but you don't expect me to believe people when they say they have apologized. It's called special pleading, by the way. That's the fallacy.
You hurt them, and if they don't feel that they can genuinely accept your apology, they don't have to.
Well, there you go. You heard it yourself. If you don't believe they're offended, then you don't have to accept it. And again, I think Riley is just a misguided person who seems well-intended, so please do not go and harass anyone. That doesn't benefit any of us. We're all humans. And if you enjoyed that, go ahead and click the thumbs up. If not, click the thumbs down. Leave me a comment and tell me either way. You can check out my links in the doobly-doo, including the link to my VidMe account, in case YouTube deems this to be shadow ban worthy or something. And as always, this has been Reverend JR, signing off.